Welcome to Coal Painting Tables, How to Paint an Ultramarine Sternguard. So here's the model. I based it with Basia's stamp using the Imperial sheet. We'll take a look at that as the model goes along. I'm going to start off with a coat of Vallejo Air's Insignia Blue. So since I primed this guy as a neutral gray, I'm going to use this as like the darkest shade of the blue. So it's going to go absolutely everywhere all over the model. Blue's a pretty opaque color as well, so just keep that in mind as we go across this tutorial. I'm going to do a few different things in order to try to brighten that color up. Steel blue is going to be our next color, but I lost the footage, but you're basically giving the entire thing a coat of steel blue across the model. French blue is going to be our next color that we're going to go over, and in this case it's going to be a little bit more angled from the top, as you can see here. Shooting from the top down is just trying to hit those higher points in which the light will be hitting the armor and to brighten that guy up. So because colors are pretty transparent by shooting them through an airbrush, I'm going to go in with white and give it a few more zaps along the top just to create the highest point of light for the model. We're going to go back over this again with French blue just to show really how bright you can really get things by just doing some pre-highlighting with a bit of white like this. And here's actually when we're going to go back in with that same French blue one more time. Once again, like even though blue's a very opaque color, by shooting it through an airbrush, it gets pretty transparent. So you're going to see things look a lot brighter once we go over those white areas again with French blue. So I like to use different colors for washes. Purple and red are some of my favorite things to do, even if you're not washing onto purple or red. So in that case, I actually mix these two colors together. I think it was actually Caribird Crimson and an old Leviathan Purple, about 50-50, and just went across the model like you'd normally be doing a wash or a glaze. It's on a little bit heavier than what I would have liked it to be, but you know, we're going to learn as we go across and as we're painting things and determine how we want things to look. So calling the blue done, we're going to base coat the tabard. I just decided to go with straight red. In this case, I mixed black and red together. I think it was gory red that you just saw. And we'll just be going in with a normal brush just to paint up the entire tabard. I'm going to use the same color on the back of the tabard as well, just has a darker tone. The front of it will be eventually brightened up as you see in the next steps. I do use the same red to base the purity seals and anything else that I think is going to be red. You see the scabbard of the sword that's getting based in the same dark black red. You don't see it actually on camera, but I ended up doing the strap on the bolter as well in the same kind of color. And now we go in with a straight gory red. Gonna put on a few layers of this in order to brighten up the tabard itself. Because red is a much more transparent color than blue is when you're using it with a brush, you want to make sure you have nice thin layers. I'm painting up towards the highest points in which light will be hitting the tabard. Get a good contrast there in order to make it look more enjoyable. Final highlight, I mixed together some scarlet. It's Vallejo model color scarlet in with that gory red in order to create the brightest points of red for the tabard. So now I'm just going in with a darker red glaze or wash in order just to blend together the colors a little bit nicer and not have to worry about any stark contrast that we saw when doing the tabard initially. You let it dry horizontally as well, just to make sure that that wash is drying in the right positions. And this is what it looks like when it's all done drying. Few steps, I hit a few different colors going across there. I blacked out the bolter. I got some beige onto all of the actual purity seals themselves. In this case, I just grabbed some of that same beige and started mixing it into the black-red mix. And I got this weird sort of color that I liked out of it. It's kind of like leather, but not quite. And it's just to give a different tone. This is the exact same color that I ended up using for the strap as well. In this case, we're going to grab some Deck 10 and then just highlight up some of those purity seals and then put on white on into any of the ropes that are across the model as well. This is just a general wash of sepia. I think it's Seraphim Sepia from GW. You could use Abrax Earthshade or any other kind of lighter brown wash that you want to use, just to give some of that scrolly feel for all the beige areas that we put in for the purity seals. So just in order to give a quick highlight to the black on the bolter, I just grabbed some neutral gray and just gave it a few quick bursts with the airbrush. It's better than doing, at least in my mind, edge highlighting or line highlighting. The rest of the bolter is going to be metal anyways, so we'll be hitting with black wash in order to bring all those tones back together, make it feel more like an actual black bolter. For the metal, I mixed together dark gray by Vallejo Model Color and then Vallejo Model Air's Silver. I love the Model Air metals. I think they're fantastic, and I just didn't have any darker gun paint around or handy at the time, so just mix them together quick for any of the metal areas that are going to go onto this guy. I'm pretty liberal with the black wash on this point. I think it was just Vallejo's black wash and then some matte medium mixed in with it just to thin it out a little bit because I can find that it goes on pretty heavy. But yeah, just going across onto any of the metal areas that need to have a bit of a definition. So the vents of the backpack, the bolter, the tip of the sword scabbard, even some of the ropes that I want to have a little bit more lines added into them. This is some straight scarlet, just going over top of the purity seals in order to bring out the fantastic waxy detailing of them. For the gold, I'm using Vallejo Liquid Gold Range Rich Gold. I have a real love-hate relationship with this paint. It is alcohol-based. It does have actual metals in it. It looks fantastic. However, I just find the shelf life isn't so awesome. So I didn't realize that these newer pots that I picked up and finally cracked open, they're already kind of going on their way out. So you can see that the gold's fantastic, but it very quickly becomes kind of a pain to manage and work with. I think that you can get almost the same effect by grabbing just gold out of their game color range and mixing it in with their air range. But in this case, I decided to tough it out and go through the entire thing using this rich gold. And that's what's happening here. I'm using a synthetic brush instead of a Klinsky brush, just because it is probably a little bit more damaging on the hair since it is an alcohol-based paint. I didn't want to ruin all of the fantastic watercolor brushes that we use, so keep a synthetic kicking around for situations like this. I'm going in here with the sepia wash, nice, just basic line details that we want to get coming out of that. Sepia is nice, it doesn't like overtone the model, it just brings out a little bit of that richness. I'm also going to be going in with purple into some of the deeper shades of it, but in this case, like you start off overall, nice long strokes in order to get a decent definition coming out of the paint. And the model, and then we'll go in again with something a little bit darker, just to vary it up a bit. The purple's a little bit more specific around the inner folds of the wings, for example. I don't want to go across the entire model, I just want to go next to wherever the heaviest shadows would be. You can see that eventually when we get to it on the right arm, I'll do a lot of just the underside of the gold with a purple wash, just to give that idea of a shadow. Like the blues have a shadow because of the way that we airbrushed it. In this case, the purple wash is going to kind of mimic that built-in shadow for us. So you can see that the model now has a head as well. I'm going to do an entire series on doing faces and heads, so I didn't want to take up a lot of time for this guy to do that. But here, because I was using the Basius stamp, it's pretty fantastic. I'm just going to go in. I was originally using like a big dry brush, but now I need something a little bit more specific, just with Vallejo Model Color Beige going across the entire model. I'm going to end up using some pigments in order to make it a little bit more orangey and dusty. And then some weirder greens in order to make it a little bit more alien. But just brushing all around the model's base, and no real concerns aside from not getting onto his feet. So what you're seeing there was my big mix of dry pigment that I've just been using for like Marsish bases for a while. It's Secret Weapons, Rust Red, Rust Orange, and Rust Brown, kind of all mixed together. All you do is flip it in with some water, mix it around, and toss it across the entire base. Feel free, be messy. Pigments are awesome. If you guys checked out some of my other videos, or my first two videos, you see me like loving pigments, basically because they're like a wash, but they don't really stick onto the ground. They don't have a resin to actually dry onto the model, so once it's dry, you can actually use water to move it around. And that's what we're going to see coming up in this next clip, is now that it's dried, I can actually, I pushed it around a little bit with a cotton swab, so you can see it actually on his feet, and it's looking pretty dusty there. So in this case, we're going to go grab some jade green, and there's actually some sculpted grass-ish areas along the base. Just going to go in with that in order to create some really vibrant and weird-looking plant life that could be on this alien planet. So here I'm just mixing more beige back into that jade green, just to brighten it up, and just kind of go over top of everything as a rough highlight to it. We're going to hit one more wash after this again with Athonian Camo Shade, I think was the color. It's that weird browny green that GW produced. That looks really good on Imperial Guard or Astra Militarum. And it's just going to be going across the entire base just to create more of a definition for some of those cracks that are going to end up happening. Guys, thanks for watching how to do Ultramarine Sternguard. Please like, share, and subscribe. If you enjoyed this video, please make a comment on it as well. I do want to start doing more of these. It's going to kind of come in terms of time between commission work and other work that I'm doing. But if I have enough people liking this, I'll probably eventually start putting up a potential Patreon thing in order to allow me to focus more on making videos for you guys as opposed to painting commissions for other people. But thanks again, and any ways that you want to see a better video or what you'd like to see in the future, please put a comment down below. Have a good one.